It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, April 1st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that thinks Matvey Michkov made the Predators look like a fool.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade. I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen, who also doesn't get an April Fool's joke. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, my attempt at getting you to laugh about an April Fool's joke aside, it was very good to see Garnet Hathaway back in action for the Flyers.
Yeah, he was doing out there doing Hathaway things, and I didn't think April Fool's was still a thing, so yeah, it didn't even dawn on me. But yeah, Hathaway looked good, and I'm happy that he's healthy, and I know that reading quotes from today that it was a little touch and go there for a while. So yeah, that could get scary for a player.
Yeah, so I'm glad he got in. Unfortunately, we got official word that Rasmus Ristolainen is going to be out for the remainder of the season, which we kind of knew,
Yeah, we
but
just needed to hear it, but we kind of knew.
yeah, so that's a bummer. But it's a pretty remarkable thing. We've been talking about the ice time being a little bit wonky with Nick Delorier in. And, magically, when he comes out and those 5-6 minutes get redistributed, everybody else's minutes seem pretty normal.
Yeah, it all looks good. Yeah, and it's no shot at Nick. It's just, he needs to
I
go on a
know.
team that could use him once every few weeks, and that's fine. This is not the team for him anymore. That's all. It's just, they're in a
Right.
different direction. Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. And then Carson Dorwart will not play until Saturday at the earliest
Right.
because he's got to pass his physicals and all that stuff before he can actually technically practice with the team. So hopefully that'll happen in the next day or two. And we'll get to see him at practice and learn more about him as
Mhm.
he joins the Flyers. Going into this game against Nashville, and of course, we'll get to our Phantoms Tuesday later in the
Yeah.
show, as well as a little bit about the NCAA Frozen Four tournament. I think this wasn't as good a game as the last two offensively, clearly, because, they only scored 2 goals in this
Right.
one, which, everything's relative, I guess. But I think that, the Predators had a really good goalie performance in this one. So
They
there
did.
was that. But I do think that it was just such a weird game because they're both like not the best teams.
Right.
And so like people were able to strip pucks pretty easily on both sides,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, look, Fedotov had 2 that could have gone in easy, that one flutter,
Totally.
so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was one of those coin flip kind of games, but if you win too many of them, it is costly down the stretch. It is. As far as the
I
draft.
know. It's so hard. It is really hard to be in this position. And,
Yes.
it partially makes me want to go with the gold system,
Mhm.
I think, in terms of how you get that top draft pick, right? I just, the PWHL is doing it. I know it's fewer teams, but still, like,
Yeah.
it's just more, the more I think about it, the more I think the NHL has to start doing it.
They won't. They've changed it just to this, and it took a while to do this,
I
and
know.
I can't see him moving off it for the CBA negotiation. I'd be shocked.
Yeah, but you did mention Fedotov, and this was definitely, I would say, a patented Ivan Fedotov
Oh, yeah.
performance where, He was a little bit wild, a little bit out of the zone there, but then made some really good
He
saves
made
too.
made some good
So
ones too. I mean, the Stamkos play was the right call. He was clearly
mhm.
hungry in front of the net there. That was close. There were a lot of them that were close, but it was just, hey, it worked out for him.
It did. It also worked out for Ryan Paling, who
Mhm.
continues to be on a tear late in the season. Just absolutely wonderful to see because I think now the big challenge is going to be, can we get this Ryan Paling at the beginning of a season? Like, can we do it?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question, and maybe we'll find out next year. We're not gonna know until then.
I know. It would just be so great to have depth scoring from a guy
Yeah.
like him who has that speed
Yep.
and can actually help a third line get going?
Yeah, yeah, no question about it. Uh, yeah, I mean, some guys are getting on track here, some are sort of still stuck in the mud, but more guys you could see are at least playing lighter. I mean, clearly Michkov is because he doesn't worry about
Yeah.
making mistakes now, and you could see it. And people are asking me about the difference, and I said that's the difference. He's not looking over his shoulder. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I am so impressed with the media training that they give
Yeah.
these guys because even, like, through a translator now, I'm sure there was a little bit of adjustment there
Oh
in
yeah,
terms
if
of.
we don't speak Russian, he could be leaving out
Right.
whole chunks of sentences, and we're not gonna know.
He could be, but it seems like he's saying all the right things of team first
Yeah.
versus individual accolades, post-game when asked about the Calder, but I do think that JJ and Boosh were a little bit effusive, when it came
Yeah,
to
it's a little bit like
that.
a little over the top because, I didn't see Dustin Wolf's name there, and it prompted me to look what was the rookie record for wins for a goalie, and it's 30. Henrik Lundqvist had 30. He's got 24. So he's on the precipice there. And if he were to get 30, he's going to get a lot of votes. So not to have his name there.
Regardless if the Flames make the playoffs or not.
Regardless, yeah, it won't even matter if they make the playoffs at that point. If they make the playoffs, then it's even just another feather. But to not have his name there, it's like, come on, guys, he's in the race too.
Michkov should be a finalist, though,
Absolutely, he
for
will be.
sure. Yeah, I just like him winning is neither
Somebody
here
is
nor
going to get
there.
left out that's really good because they have a deep
Yep,
field this year. That's a
they do.
fact.
I do wanna talk about the D pairings a little bit because we
Mhm.
didn't really do that over, the weekend games that, we talked about or after the Sabres game that, Bradshaw switched things up a little bit there, and we saw Sanheim playing with Sealer.
Yeah,
And, I think, yeah, it's a really interesting pairing because I think Sanheim, has been sort of mentally trained to be a little bit more conservative, I think, but when you're playing with Sealer, you don't have to be in a lot of ways because Sealer's gonna hang back and he's the shot blocking guy, right?
right.
And I think that it's taking Sanheim a little bit of time to adjust to that, but also, like, he is stepping up a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they saw that since the Four Nations, Sanheim's offense has largely stalled. And so,
Yeah,
how do you get him to concentrate more on offense to have a guy there that can cover his back that he doesn't have to worry about?
right, and then
Really,
so that
that's really why.
Yeah, and so that puts York with Drysdale, and I think that's an important thing to do in a lot of ways because you need these younger guys playing together
You
so
do
that
if
they
you want to
can
look at the
grow.
future there. Yeah.
Yeah, they have to grow together as a pairing, and you wanna look at some of these younger pairings and see what you got in terms of what kind of skills are complementing each other, and that really helps you, like, give instruction for the off season about what you want these guys to work on in terms of what style you want them to be playing in to complement each other like
It
that.
does, because at some point, Nick Seeler will drop off and these guys will probably still be here. So yeah, you have to start preparing for that so you can get looks at it. So you can in the off season kind of draw this up and see what you're missing, see what you could do. Not enough was experimented with under John,
Yeah, I agree. It's on the D side,
especially on the
absolutely.
east side. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just very hyper conservative and didn't try interesting or new things, and,
No.
So it is really refreshing to see some of that right
It is.
now, and looking forward to seeing more of it in the remaining games. In the meantime, it is Phantoms Tuesday, so we'll get to that, including Jett Luchanko's debut with the team coming up next.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you could use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals, and you'll find things you never knew about your spending habits. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
On our show tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Frozen Four tournament that we're about to discuss, but we're going to focus on some standout college free agents and draft eligible players. So we know who to keep an eye out in these final games. Plus, we'll be answering your mailbag questions. So get them in. We already have some great ones around the Tortorella firing, but please send yours in. You can let us know on email at lockedonflyers@gmail. You can send us a message on any of our socials, or you can comment over on YouTube. So we do have a Frozen Four final teams now. We've got Denver, who won over Boston College recently. Western Michigan beat UMass. BU won over Cornell, and Penn State, won against UConn. And I think Penn State is probably the most surprising of those four, right?
I mean, I don't go by the coaches' rankings. Okay, let's just start there. Like, if people thought that Denver was going to be beaten by BC just because of their record, BC
No.
lost a week ago, anyhow, in the Hockey East final. I had no
Yep.
aspirations that they were going to win that game at all. And so, but it's a crazy amount of hate that goes to BC for underperforming. But like, whatever, I don't care where they're ranked. So I think Penn State's a little better than people think, or at least people who aren't in the know. Like, I'm not in a college hockey know. I just follow the prospects. But they're a pretty good team. They're always fast. I know Guy Godowski well because I covered him for years at Princeton. This is the first time they've ever made it. It was an exciting game, a big win. They were controlling the game, but UConn was being very physical and had great goaltending. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. But the point was, it made it hard to score. And that's what college hockey could do. If you got a bunch of good, strong seniors and otherwise, you could really keep the score down by playing a certain system. And so that happens a lot in college hockey.
Right. And I know we're going to talk more about more of the players tomorrow, but we did specifically call out Connor Hazley for Bentley last week. So I know they lost, but it was a much closer game than people might have guessed, right?
Yeah, he was good. I mean, they were playing it the way you should play it against a more talented team. And yes, that was the one where James Hagens, I guess, got the game winner. Was that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people were killing him a game before that. And so, yeah, this is just the emotions that go back and forth in college hockey, but he did play really well.
And any other initial impressions before the finals that come up in 2 weekends? Because we got to wait an extra week for some reason. So those 2 rounds are the 10th through the 12th.
Yeah, good luck beating Denver. They've had an injury. It doesn't seem to matter. G. Bouillon looks terrific. David Carl's a terrific coach. I've covered him enough and interviewed him more than a few times to know how smart he is. G. Bouillon waving goodbye on that third goal that went in to the Boston College bench was funny. Yeah, this is hockey nowadays, but that would have happened in 15 years ago too. That's happened before. So yeah, that was interesting to see.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, pretty bold, but I love that. Love that confidence, Looking to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms now for our Phantoms Tuesday report. We had a split week for the Phantoms. They lost 3-2 to Belleville, and they won against the best team in the AHL, which is the Laval Rocket 3-1. And I think that, the game against Belleville, they kind of got sucked into Belleville's style of play a little bit, and
Mhm.
that did not work to their favor. The Phantoms were actually ahead twice, and then Belleville tied it up and then eventually won the game. So it was a little disappointing, but I think overall, like, if you're gonna win against Laval, like, I'll take it. I'll take the split weekend given how they recovered the very next day.
Who was in net for Laval in that one, though?
Yeah, so interestingly, Parker Gahagan was in net for Laval because, as we know, Alexei Kolosov is up with the Flyers, and I think that's a whole thing. But I think
So that
it's
makes it
more.
a better win.
It does make it a better win. He was fantastic in net,
He's been
absolutely
good all year. I mean,
fantastic.
to his credit, he has been really good when
Yeah,
called upon.
yeah, I want to talk about that more, but I want to get to the main topic at hand for the Phantoms report this week, which is Jett Luchanko,
Mhm.
who was added to the roster. He is still too young to play with the Phantoms full time. He can do this tail end of the
Right.
season thing, but next season it's either the Flyers or junior hockey again.
Correct.
That's kind of where we're at with him. So I just want to make sure that's clear. That being said, he played both games this weekend for the Phantoms. Alex Ciernik was signed to an ATO for the remainder of the season. He has not gotten into a game yet. He has practiced with the team, and Lappy has said, he's going to find the right time to get him into a game, but getting him in is much less important than getting
Right.
Jett Luchanko in right away. So now we have 2 games of data of Jett Luchanko on the Phantoms here, and I would say it was a mixed bag.
Mhm.
And, in his first game, he had a penalty and 0 shots on goal. I would say, to to be fair, he's just getting into playing with this team. He's
Mhm.
adjusting to the style of play.
Mhm.
He's trying to work his way into the non-existent system that the Phantoms have here and figuring out what that is compared to what I'm sure is a much more rigid system
Mhm.
that he had with 12. He was on the second line, so he was the 2C for the Phantoms for both games. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most was he was on a power play unit with Grabenkin.
Mhm.
The 2 of them could be building some chemistry here. I
Okay.
think there's some potential for that'll go somewhere eventually. The power play for the Phantoms is a whole separate thing, and it continues to struggle to some degree. They only had 1
Well,
power
maybe
play goal.
Rocky should help him with it. The Flyers are doing better
Well,
lately.
yeah, sure. But I just really think that Luchenko was getting better as that game on Friday progressed. And then on
Mhm.
Saturday, again, I think he made some mistakes for sure. I think he
Mhm.
was puck chasing a
Mhm.
little bit and trying to be responsible defensively, but wasn't really sure how to do it
Right.
per se yet, but that'll come with time. I think that he had an assist on the insurance
Yeah, I
goal
saw the
in that
assist.
game.
It was a nice play.
Fantastic
Really good
play, right?
vision. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Really, which
yeah,
is what you expect them to make. All the things you're saying. So there's 2 things that I definitely take out of this. One, it was good that Danny sent him back this year because preseason
yeah,
NHL is not as hard as getting ready for the playoffs AHL. That's one thing. And now what you could see with him in the AHL is a reason I don't want him to play in the NHL next year because it's not having that complete game. It's not just going to kick in for just the end of this season. That takes a little time. He has to get things going with line mates. If you just put him into the NHL like this, he's going to make too many mistakes that might hurt his confidence. This is
yep.
why I wouldn't do it. Even though he may look great again in preseason next year, this is a reason I would have pause.
Right. And I think getting him to maybe a slightly better OHL team will do
Yes.
much more for him than making significant mistakes at the NHL level. I agree with that. But I think that, you look at some of the mistakes he made. He was on the ice for the 1 goal against in the Laval game. He definitely got caught a little bit on that play. But I think, he's also maybe struggling with where to be in the open ice when he
Yeah,
doesn't
sure.
have the puck. But that's I think a part of getting used to a system because he literally doesn't know where to be yet, which is
Right.
fine. I think,
Right.
to start off with, 5, 6 games in, he should know where to be at that point.
Well, this is up to Ian LePerrier to seamlessly
Mhm.
get him to work with this team. Like that's his job.
Right, but I do think that having him and Grebenkin in the game at the same time, like, honestly, I know that the Phantoms have had some very good performances recently, and this game against Laval is a prime example of
Mhm.
that, but, they've been hit or miss this whole season,
Yes.
and they've struggled for significant periods of time, but this was a game where I just watched the 2 of them in particular and Zayd Wisdom to a large degree, but the 2 of them in particular as guys with potential who are hungry, who are
Mhm.
trying, who
Mhm.
have skill, and it just made me feel some kind of way about
Yeah.
this
No, I
team,
mean, that's the way you're supposed to feel at the end of the year when some prospects come in. Uh, I don't know if Ciernik's gonna add anything, to be honest, and I think that's
Yeah.
why he's gotta learn how to play North American hockey, and
Yep.
that may just
Yep.
be too much to work in, so I think Ian LePerrier is probably doing the right thing on that.
Yeah, I think so for sure. But like with Gurbenkin, he had an
Yeah.
assist Friday, he had a goal Saturday. I could definitely see some Travis Konechny tendencies of carrying the puck up through the middle and having it
Mhm.
get stripped. But he
Mhm.
is certainly creative. He's
Mhm.
very fun to watch, and he pushes this team. And the Phantoms need that. And
Yeah,
so
they
I'm
do.
very happy he's around.
Yeah, but this is the way he plays, and you're getting to see it more now, is
Yeah.
why I think he's a fourth liner in the NHL, not like some people are like, "Well, maybe he could play with Michkov." No. If you wanna put him on the
Mm-mm.
power play with him, fine, maybe you'll have
Yeah, yeah.
some results there. He could play the power play, but 5 on 5 is a different game for him, and so that's fine. I mean, again, you worry about it and see if he could do it next year, but this is good. This is good for the Phantoms. I think it's good for the fans to be able to at least see an uptick in that. And look, I mean, if the Flyers were playing Laval in just a few days, they could have been facing Jacob Fowler. So, who knows?
Yeah, I know. So again, really good 2 games, but we're going to talk more about some of the other guys that stood out, the goaltending and those dreaded special teams coming up next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, and each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you, unsaturated fats to help give you that full feeling longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack, and I have it at my desk while I'm working. And I had an emergency the other day and couldn't get some dinner. So I just picked up a bag of these sea salt and vinegar no shells. And that was my dinner, but it was perfect and it was delicious and healthy too. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. These little green wonders pack a protein punch. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right. So I did mention Zayd Wisdom. He continues to just perform well. He had a goal Saturday. It was such a smart shot, too, because you would have expected him to take the shot up into the corner, but he just had a laser straight down and 5-holed it. And the goalie just was not prepared at all. And I just see him making smarter and smarter decisions as this season has progressed. And I'm just so thrilled for him.
Yeah, the confidence is really there, and he's kind of looking like the player he was a couple of years ago. And so this is good. And like I said, I'll keep pounding it. I really want to see him get re-signed,
Hmm.
and let's hope that that happens because I think good things could happen for him. I mean, he's on a good path right now. This is good.
Yeah, I think so. And Ethan Sampson scored his 10th goal of the
That's
season,
good.
which is really, really good for him. That was on the power play on Friday. So that was like as the power play was starting to come together a little bit with better puck movement. Elliot Denoye scored on Friday. He's still coming on strong at the end of the season, which is good. Helge Grans, man, he is developing so well, and it's like breaking my heart that he's
Yeah,
not getting that chance because he was
it's just
making some.
crazy.
Yeah, he had 5 shots on goal, second on the team, in the game on Friday. He stepped up in the play quite a bit, making really good decisions about when to do that and when to be conservative and stay back. He also has been taking some penalties, though, and that's where I think the mixed bag on him is. So, you know, we'll see.
But
But
I guess my big thing on that would be, okay, um, but he shows enough that if nothing else, he could be an NHL depth defenseman.
yeah, I know. I know. I really
Like,
believe
that's a
that.
guarantee.
I would say so. I would absolutely say that. I think, it should be no surprise, but with the goaltending situation being what it is, I think it is frustrating, like I said, to not have Alexei Kolosov there. But, Parker Gahagan saved 24 on 25 shots in that game against Laval, especially in the third period. The Phantoms got way outshot and he had to do a lot of work, and he made some really incredible saves. Cal Peterson was fine against Belleville, but
It'll be Kolosov, but they need to send him down
right.
and give him, like, 2 starts before the playoffs.
I
Like, I hope
know.
they don't wait until the absolute last minute because that's not gonna be a good thing.
I know. It's brutal. Now, on the special teams side of things for the Phantoms, like I said, the power play still continues to struggle a little bit, but this week they did not give up a shorthanded goal. So we're going to
Okay.
take that as the win
That's
of
the
the
win,
week.
huh?
Yeah, but on Friday, one of the reasons why they lost the game against Belleville, they were 1 for 8 on the power
Yeah.
play. They had 8 chances and only
8 is an
converted 1.
insane amount of chances.
It is. It is. Now there were some like limited time chances in those 8
Okay,
because of weird
okay.
timing with
So
penalties,
1 for
but
6, like, is that reasonable, you
on
know?
yeah, 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 the equivalent of 1 for 6, I would
Right.
say.
That's crazy.
Just still not great. 0 for 3 on Saturday. However, the penalty kill was perfect for the weekend. They were 8 for 8. And on Saturday's game against Laval was trying to climb their way back into it. The score was 3-1. Phantoms take a penalty. That PK was tremendous to
Okay.
kill that penalty with less than 3 minutes to go in the game, and that was a huge reason why they won.
The
So,
PK is gonna
and
help
they
in the
had a
playoffs.
yeah, and they had a quality shorthanded chance
Okay.
during that PK.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
gonna
was
help in the playoffs, but they're gonna
yeah,
need the power play in the playoffs too.
yeah, I know. It's a real difficult transition, I think, into the playoffs, NHL or AHL in
Oh,
terms
yeah.
of just up leveling, right?
Mhm. Yeah, it's all about up-leveling, you're right.
Now, I do want to mention one other thing here because I got to, through the broadcast, hear an interview of Ian LaPerriere talking about the John Tortorella firing. And I think it's important to note because it's something that we have said all along, these last 3 years, is that there's no communication between Lappy and Torts, right?
Brutal,
So
and
Lappy essentially confirmed that because when asked to comment on the firing, said really nice things and said, it was great to experience like development camp and training camp and I learned so much from him, but basically said that they did not communicate outside of dev camp and training camp, which is a huge, huge problem
such a head
that has to
scratcher.
get fixed now.
Yeah. Oh, no, it has to be fixed. It's a head scratcher.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't believe I was like, he just went and said it,
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was brutal. But looking forward to seeing, how Alex Ciernik gets slotted in to
Mhm.
all this and how Jett Luchanko continues to develop for the 7 remaining games of the season. All the other teams have basically caught up now, so everyone in the division has either 7 or 8 games to go, which is nice. We don't have to do all this stupid math anymore.
Right. I
But
would say one thing about Luchanko, I would not move him
yeah,
up to 1C. I don't think
no,
that's a good idea.
no, I don't think so either. And especially because that first line is Jacob Gaucher centering
Right.
Gurbenkin and Richard.
Right.
So
Leave
I
that
think
alone.
that's the top line that should stick. So
Yep.
I got no beef with Luchanko being on the second line, and he's with Garrett Wilson, who's the captain and a
Which is
veteran,
good. Yeah.
really good, and Gendron. I think
Right.
that's a perfect
No, that's good.
combination. It's really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that. And there are 3 games this week. We've got a Wednesday game at Bridgeport, and they better win that one because Bridgeport
I
is
mean,
terrible.
they're the worst. I mean, it's one of the worst AHL teams in the last 20 years. I mean, it's bad.
Oh, totally. And then they've got a Friday, Saturday. So hopefully Kolosov is in Wednesday and Friday or Saturday. But
Right.
at this point, maybe just Friday or Saturday.
Well, here's the
But we'll
thing. I
see.
mean, the Flyers are going to Montreal, right? So Kolosov either has to be with the Phantoms or he's going to be across the border. It doesn't make sense to
Yep,
bring him across the border.
it does not. It does not. So we'll see, but that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow to talk college prospects and potential free agents from the Frozen Four. We'll get to your mailbag questions. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So let us know your thoughts via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on all the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. It brings you daily league-wide stories that matter with local coverage you love from Locked On. I am there on Fridays as well as Saturdays for the Women's Hockey Report. Lots going on in women's hockey right now. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.